Welcome to the MVPreneur podcast. Have you ever considered leaving your current job to become an independent professional working with the Power Platform or Dynamics 365? Join me as I speak with my fellow MVP colleagues who have made the jump and now earn a living as independents, working on a variety of projects delivering Microsoft Business Application services, training, and subject matter expertise. Hear about their successes and their failures, and maybe be inspired to make your own jump. Or maybe you've decided that staying in your current position is the right decision for you. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy this podcast. Hello, everybody. We're back again with another episode of kind of going independent, and still haven't nailed a title yet, but we'll figure that out soon enough. Today I have Megan Walker from the UK. Now, Megan's in an interesting position because she recently went independent, so she's literally probably one step ahead of everybody else in the journey and things like that. So, Megan, I'm going to ask you, so what made you, what was the decision to go independent?
Yeah, it's a good question. And you say like literally just done it. This is my day one of not getting paid by an employer or doing anything for an employer. So it's been an interesting one. Yeah, I guess a lot of different things. So we'll kind of start and maybe dig into some of them. So for me, the thing that I'm most passionate about when I'm doing my work is having an organization say, this is frustrating, this is time consuming, this takes a lot of, it costs us a lot of money, whatever, and going in and being able to implement something that transforms them as an organization. It could be something tiny or it could be something monumental, but something that makes people's lives easier or saves them money, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And that's always what I've been passionate about, and also passionate about helping others learn and mentoring people. So anytime I've worked for an organization, I've always been somebody that will either manage other people. I've had teams of 12, I've had teams of 2, I've had all kinds of different sizes of teams, but it's the mentoring of somebody else and helping them further on in their career. So those are the two things that I've been passionate about. And using CRM for over a decade, and then trying out different roles and being a system administrator, being a trainer for CRM, and then going in and working for partners, it had got to the point where I felt like day to day, I'm managing my own stuff, I'm managing myself, I'm helping people out in the community. And it got to the point where I could just be doing this on my own and not have to deal with any of the other stuff and not have to go and ask permission. Not that I was really denied permission, but ask permission to go to an event during the day, during the week, which is fair enough, and you have to kind of have that respect for an employer. But to be able to take all of that out of it, and now it's me, it's my decisions. If I want to do something, then I can. I don't have to ask anybody else's permission.
Fair enough. So day one, you're very still much in the honeymoon period, which, I mean, I found that it doesn't really go away.
Well, but hope so after day one that I'm still, it's crap, Nick.
You had to record a podcast on your first day. Yeah, there we go. You didn't have to ask anybody if you're allowed to do that or not either.
No, exactly. I was like, yeah, I could do this whenever. So that was the biggest thing is I can carry on doing the things that I love and actually pick and choose when I do them and not have to wait until I move into a different role within an organization to be able to say, hey, I'm going to go off and teach a training class, or I'm going to go off and go and help somebody on a project, or whatever it might be. It's my decision.
Yeah. And it's good to, I think a lot of independents sort of have when a lot of that trigger moment is when their values, not that the values of their employer are wrong, but there's a bit of I wouldn't say a conflict there, but they're sort of on a different path, and then just kind of following your own path. So now you're based in the UK, so this is probably very fresh. How hard was it to kind of set up the administration around becoming independent, or is that something you've approached yet or have done any work with?
So I had everything set up like 2 months ago. I'm someone that likes to plan and likes to be prepared. And I started getting feedback from other people on things, asking questions of other MVPs that were also sort of out on their own,
Yeah.
and figuring out, well, what do I need to do? And for me, my it had been in the back of my mind, this is what I think I want to do, this is what I think I want to do. And then got to the point where I knew this is what I wanted to do. And then just went ahead and set up my company and said, right, that's it. I've set up the company. That means I have to do it. So it was my last final force of myself to make that leap, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Very straightforward, very easy to do. I think it's £12 to go online. Yeah, and set up your own organization to create the limited company.
Yeah.
And that was the first step. And then it was kind of piece by piece in terms of, okay, well, what do I need to do about an accountant? Should I find an individual? Should I go for an organization? Like that kind of thing. So it was that part itself, actually setting up the organization, was really straightforward.
Oh, cool. So you have a bookkeeper accountant already lined up.
Yeah, so I'm using a company called Danbro, who are experienced in working with people like us that are consultants, that are doing stuff to where, okay, you've got the whole IR35 thing here in the UK in terms of at what point could you actually potentially be considered that you are just an employee of an organization rather than a contractor and independent. So they're experienced in that. So I've got software that you can use, and I've been going in and tracking my zero amount of revenue so far, and it's looking great.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of that stuff, I set it up a while ago because I didn't want to launch and then have to deal with all that crappy admin stuff at the same time of trying to work on projects.
Yeah, that's actually really good advice. Having kind of done it the opposite way, just sort of like started working and then kind of backtracking a little bit. It's a little bit frustrating when you're trying to do real work, but you have to do some administration stuff as well.
Important stuff that if you don't do, you won't get paid, or you can't get paid, or all of those types of things. So also in the UK, well, most people have. Some are lucky they have a month. I had 2 months notice to give. So it was also, right, well, that gives me 2 months to get things in order, to plan, to prepare, to start letting people know, to hopefully get some work, that kind of thing, and have all of the admin stuff out of the way. So it was a good amount of time to get prepared, I think.
Okay, cool. And do you have work lined up now?
I do. So like I said, I handed in my notice, and then to me it's just a respect thing. You don't promote stuff about going out on your own until you've actually left the organization. So I kind of did some things behind the scenes and was contacting people that I thought might potentially either have work themselves that I could be taking on, or know of other people. So used a lot of those connections and within the community as well, which is fantastic. And I've got 3 definite projects that I'm starting to work on. Some I'm starting to work on as early as tomorrow, and then I've had a lot of different phone calls with people as well to kind of discuss and see, am I a good fit for them, are they a good fit for me, that kind of thing. So it's been good.
Oh, excellent. So do you plan to actually run a few projects at the same time?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of people out there that think, oh, okay, well, so what project are you working on, and what project are you looking for? 3 months, 6 months? I don't know if I don't think I'm unique in this, but I don't know if I'm different to a lot of others. What I'm looking for is the ability to be able to have several projects going on at one time, to where I'm not 5 days a week for 6 months in London somewhere. No, that's another reason for me going out on my own, is I could work remotely and not have to travel around and go to different places. So the ability to have a client that says, hey, we are self-sufficient and we have CRM or whatever, Dynamics 365 customer engagement, we have it up and running, but every now and then we might need stuff. That's perfect for me, because then I can fit that in among other things. Someone wanting to implement Power BI or have a portal created or implement the marketing app, fantastic, because I can do that and I can fit it in among other things. So in an ideal perfect world that I know we don't live in, but that's my ideal perfect scenario, is to be able to sort of fit things in and have a day on this and a day on that and a day on something else.
Yeah, no, and I don't think that's too uncommon, because some of the other guests I've talked to, that's very much how they operate. They're running 2 or 3 different projects or more, depending. It does take a bit of juggling, but it is, it's very typical. I think you have the people that are juggling a few different projects, getting through, filling up their days that way. It gives a lot of variety. And then there is I'm on for the next 3 months. I'm working for client A, traveling. And then to me, that's almost like being a short-term employee, and you're kind of back to where you started again.
Exactly, which is what I want to avoid. I don't want to feel like that I'm just working for them and they are my employer for 3 months. And I think also then that means that, I mean, you talk about juggling, and I have juggled making videos, doing blog posts, going to events and all the rest of it. Like so many people that do that in our community, MVP or not, you're doing this juggle. So that's good. I like it. But what was this morning was great. I'm like, I can write a blog post in the morning on a weekday in my own time.
Yeah.
And it's great. So things like that, where I can then fit in my own community things in among everything else, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. No, that's excellent. So are your, and maybe you don't even know this yet, are your longer term plans to kind of stay that independent kind of sole person, or do you envision this growing into more of a bigger business with like other employees and things like that?
No, I just want it to be me. I've always, whenever I'd started to think about that was what I had in my mind. That's what I pictured was just me. And there's a book that I read that Mark Smith recommended to me. I think you might have also mentioned it as well, or one similar, called A Company of One by, I think, Paul Jenkins. If I've got it wrong, then
no, we'll look that up and
we'll link
it in the
it.
show notes.
So that one is basically about how you can go into your own business and don't have to have the vision for growth based on increasing people and and adding a team. That's not necessarily the growth that I want. The growth that I would like is to be able to get to the point of being able to say, oh, I've had a fantastic past 6 months. I've got a war chest set up to where I'm okay for a bit. And my husband works in a school, so he could maybe take some time off, where usually it's like we have to kind of be really, really stringent in terms of, okay, well, when can I take the time off? We can't necessarily take it at the same time. So being able to have that as a flexibility and have the growth to where I'm okay and can then do things like that, or take longer weekends or whatever we might want to do, or go on holiday or vacation for 3 weeks instead of having to stick it to 2 or whatever that might be. So I'm not going into it with the grandeur of I want to run my own organization, other than just running the organization of me. Yeah.
No, and that's having done the company, and now I'm back to me. I keep telling people the same thing. We're at full capacity of 1 employee right now.
Yeah. So you, having done that, then what was it that got you to the point where you realized I need to backtrack and go back in the other direction?
Well, we're kind of focusing more on you today, but just I'll try to throw this. No. But it's the what started with me was when I first started in 2006. There was me. We got my wife joined the company as well, and then we got to a point where we have more work than we can handle, so we need to kind of start getting employees and stuff like that. Now, this is piece of advice for you or anybody else going out there. Adding one more person does not double your capacity. if anything, you definitely can get some more work done, but then you got to realize now your role as a doer is now become also a manager and a delegator and a project planner. So there is that ramping up of, as you add more employees, you're not adding that same capacity that you might be employing. Now, there might be other ways to do it or whatever, and then you sort of find, what I found was I wasn't able to focus on the work that I liked doing, which was the hands-on work. It was kind of more running a business. And you know what? Some people absolutely love that. I've seen very successful organizations where someone takes on that role of an operations person, and the person who founded the company still can do the technical hands-on stuff, or there's things like that. So yeah, that's why I kind of back to the, I'm going to do what I like to do and get paid for it.
Yeah, and that for me is, I do have an element of needing to be in control of things as well. And although, like I said, I've had jobs in organizations where I have managed a team, and thoroughly enjoyed it and loved, like I said, the mentoring aspect of it. The not so great side of it, where you have to let people go, where you have to have really difficult discussions and disciplines and all of that kind of thing. No, I'm not interested in all of that. And I can still help and mentor people within our community, and get great satisfaction from that, and feel like I'm helping somebody else on their journey. So
yeah, and for myself too, like I sometimes will bring in other people to do specific tasks or jobs that's outside of my skill set.
Yeah.
And that works really well. If it's a very task-focused piece of work that needs to be done by someone else, I mean, I can write up the spec and then get them to do that. I'm working with a developer now who had a meeting on Friday, and it just blew me away, the work he did in a short time. It was like, there's no way I could do that. So totally valuable to me.
Yeah.
No, you did talk about that book, A Company of One, and I know that you do a lot of research and reading. Are there other books that you would recommend for folks that are kind of following you on this journey?
Oh, I'm so bad at remembering titles. So I can kind of talk about some of the books that I've been reading, and then we can link to them all below with the accurate information.
Right.
So there was another one that was written by, he'd been the head of the FBI at some point in terms of, negotiation. So it was the art of negotiation, but from a...
Is it never split the difference?
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
So that one, in terms of going into a situation, now his was hostage negotiation. I'm not planning on going into that, either taking or trying to help free. But in terms of the psychology of people, that's what I found really fascinating, and being able to phrase things in certain ways and use slight changes in vocabulary that can make such a difference in how either somebody reacts to you or perceives you, that kind of thing. And that I find fascinating, to be able to read and learn and understand, and either say, oh, that's great, I already do that, or that's negative and I have done that in the past and I probably need to sort of stay away from that. So I think, just in terms of not even necessarily going out and setting up on your own, but just in general as a consultant or as a solution architect or whatever your role might be, is learning how to read others and work better with others and negotiate things, not from a conniving or cunning way. I don't mean that in terms of negotiation. Just being able to say, there's an issue here, we need to figure it out, we need to resolve it, and let's do it in the nicest way possible, still get the result that is desired and that is needed in a situation. So stuff like that I find really, really interesting.
Cool.
I can't think of any other books off the top of my head. I would like to, that's one thing in this year, is get better at, is not starting a book, because I'm really, really good at starting books. It's actually getting all the way through to the end without starting another 2 or 3 books and having multiple on the go at one time. So that's something that I want to be able to get better at, and I am somebody that always feels that you can work on yourself as a person and improve areas of your life, of your sort of how you approach other people, how you interact with other people. I'm always looking for books like that.
Cool. I was getting some chats coming up, so I was kind of silencing that. No worries. I thought Teams was supposed to stop all that, but
Oh, yeah, it doesn't, does it?
no worries. So you've now that you've kind of there's a lot of definitely good books. I know, yeah, Mark gave out a whole bunch.
Yeah.
So the other thing I was going to say is, and this is a lot of times a question more for people that have been out on their own for quite a while, but
Mhm.
now that you've actually started the last 2 months in your journey, if you were to actually go back in time 2 months ago, was there anything else? What would be your anything else you would have done differently or maybe approached differently?
I think I would have done it sooner, maybe. So actually, you mentioned Mark in terms of he's one that suggested some of those books. It's it's him that I kind of have to thank for like pushing me over the edge of the cliff or helping me with that last
Yeah.
jump, if you will, without a parachute. So I attended his 90-day mentoring challenge that he's done before, and he's starting up again, and is going to be running, I think, starting this month. And I went into it thinking, okay, this will be good. Anyone that knows Mark knows that he just asks you questions and puts you on the spot and forces you to answer and just says, apples or pears, bananas or oranges. And you're like, whoa, I don't know. And so I knew that because he always makes me think, then it would be a good thing to do. And I also was at a point where I'm not quite sure what I wanted to do with my career and where I wanted to progress things to. And so we went through each of the cohorts that he held, and as it went on, I just thought, I need to go out on my own. I don't see any other path for me, and yet I see this one path forming and opening sort of before my eyes. And so I remember, God, it must have been like end of the summer or something, and we had our final discussion, and it was just like a one-on-one with Mark, and we had to come up with, what do we see our short-term goals, like next couple of months, 6 months, and a year. And I think I said 6 months was, I'm going to have a course that I'll have launched that I'll be selling online, tick, and I'll have gone out on my own within 12 months. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, why am I waiting 12 months? What am I waiting for? And my brother he's a developer, and he has done he's been independent for a long time, just happened to have gone back to full-time employment just as I was going out on my own. But he kept saying to me, there is no right time, because I kept saying, well, we want to go on holiday, so we need money for that, and we want to do this, and so let's do that first. He said, there will never be the gap that you think you are looking for and that you think you need. And so I thought, right, I'm going to do it. So I think for me, I would have done it sooner, but I also, I'm a strong believer. I'm not like karma necessarily, but I'm a believer that if you're not ready, then there's no point. There will come a time where things will show itself to where that's the right time. So I think maybe I should have done it sooner, but then I guess I wasn't in the right place. So
Fair enough. I mean, there's a huge trepidation of making that jump, but I do believe that anybody who's thinking about it, I think, should make a decision one way or the other. There's, I mean, if you're going to do it, yeah, I'm for. There never is the perfect opportunity. Well, maybe we'll do this or maybe do that, and and maybe there are times in your life, that would be, better or not better. But again, it's sometimes, the decision for some people, it's made for them, kind of inadvertently, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but then
I agreed, and maybe that's easier because either, and I don't mean easier because you've been laid off and so that's easy. It's not. It's horrendous that anyone has to go through something like that. But if the opportunity presents itself, like I said, because something negative has happened, then it's like, well, screw it, I'm just going to go out on my own. I think anyone that's watching or listening to any of your podcasts on this subject, they're going to be thinking in the back, it's going to be in the back of your head, because that's where it is, isn't it? It starts as a little niggle, and then it just grows and grows and grows. And I still think, was I foolish? Was I reckless? Was I, I'm the main, my husband and I, like, we need both of our salaries.
Yep.
So so that's not, then everyone said, oh, so you've got like what, 3 6 months worth of salaries backed up? Nope, I didn't, I haven't.
Yep.
But again, it was just, I had to have faith in myself and faith that others were saying, you'll be fine, you'll be successful, and just go for it.
Yeah, and I think we have, as people working in the Microsoft business application space, we have the luxury of there is plenty of work out there currently. I mean, this is the start of 2020. There's still huge amounts of opportunity. So yeah, like if you're kind of starting a niche area that not people are aware of, it's a different thing. But I just find that, I look at, and this hasn't happened to me. Like I was in business for like 7 years for the first time around. And there was always the worst case scenario. I know at least 3 or 4 companies that would hire, people like you and me pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, that kind of goes a little bit different than the normal entrepreneurial path where they say, well, make sure you have this and that and other thing. Like if I was doing a startup building a new product that wouldn't see any revenue for 2 years, well, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Anybody in this business should be, easily within the first day should be billable. Like I'm sure you are today, day one. You probably some of this isn't, but
I'll send you my invoice for my speaking engagement.
Sure. The address is at Mark Smith at no, anyways.
No, but this week, yeah, I'm billable for the rest of the week, which is amazing to me. That it's amazing because I had so many doubts, but yet, like you said, there's such demand in our industry that okay, well, maybe I shouldn't be as amazed.
Yeah, and yeah, though it still amazes me that people want to pay me money to do stuff I like to do.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. So just kind of make sure that so the other thing I actually wanted to drill down into a little bit, just we're getting kind of closer into our time here, but you did mention you have an online course now, and I believe it's Forms Pro, and you have your sign behind you there. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Next to my MVP award, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that was something else that I've been wanting to do for a while as well. That I felt if I was working for an employer and I created something, is it an employee that then could be like, well, hey, then we own part of that, and then you get into that kind of back and forth that is just not worth it. And then also the time that it takes to put together a course, which is totally totally
Tell me about it.
Yeah, exactly. You're kind of like, oh, I won't take that long. So it was something that, yes, I'm still going to carry on sharing content online that you can get on my blog and you can get on YouTube or whatever, but I wanted something that was a very clear, directed, thought out, logical step that somebody could go through and say, right, well, here's the first chapter or the first section, and we've got 10 lessons on this area, and we've got 10 lessons on this or whatever, and guide somebody through, here's how you not only use Forms Pro, but here's a greater understanding of Common Data Service, here's how Power Automate works, and here's really where the power of Forms Pro comes in, is when you use it in conjunction with Power Automate. So I've kind of did a soft launch with the MVP Advent Calendar and put together for the day that I had, and so I've launched it. I've got 4 students so far, which is awesome. Fantastic. So those are the sorts of things that if I like being creative, I like coming up with new ideas and have these ideas that I think, oh, I wonder if I could do this. And to be able to have the freedom to say, right, well, I'm going to dedicate one day a week to coming up with this and creating something, either a new course or whatever it might be. And I'm not looking at it as a way of like, oh my God, I'm going to make so much money from this, because I'm not. I'm realistic. And if it covered a few things like web hosting costs or, email marketing costs a month, fantastic. Even if it doesn't, and there's only a few people that ever actually purchase it and go through the course, if they've learned something from it and gained something that they can then put back into their own organization, or if they're a consultant, help out their clients, fantastic. That's what's important to me.
Cool. And we'll definitely have a link to that in the show notes as well. So
Thank
if
you.
anybody's interested to sign up for that, yeah, like I think it's great. I think it also goes to show that you don't necessarily have to be out there trading your time for dollars. There are other revenue streams that, of course, as an independent, available to you, whether it's creating an online course or some training and all that other kind of fun stuff as well.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think, Megan, this will kind of begin to wrap things up there.
Mhm.
So I guess the other question I kind of end with everybody is are you available for gigs and contracts if anybody's interested?
100%, absolutely, yes.
Okay, excellent. Right. So we'll make sure your contacts info there. So thanks a lot, Megan. I really appreciate this chat today. And I think maybe we'll circle back again with you at some point down the road a little bit, just see how things are going along and other things, lessons you've learned as well.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll sign off there. And thanks, everyone. And we'll have, I think, another episode probably next week.